We are moving along now. Last week we studied how research can be an inquiry, and now we are working to select a topic we can mold into a research question. Mary George provides at least 5 methods for doing so. Let's consider some of her ideas today. Are you like a storybook elf looking in a dense forest for a juicy research topic? Mary George's musings on what she imagines when students tell her they are looking for a topic can be amusing. It seems that she mentions this to get students thinking about how they need to be actively involved in the process of selecting a topic. Rather than wandering in a forest in search of treasures beneath toadstools, she recommends that students ask, read, browse, look, and link. Most importantly, she advises students to choose something that interests you. This is what we are talking about today. This process requires some time to let ideas percolate in your head. Keep your ideas and ears open for better ideas. You may have thought of a good topic, but maybe you can discover an even better one. Be open to different ideas and talk to others. How would you talk about your research idea with a friend, family member, or coworker? Talk to them about it. Don't forget to choose something that interests you. Remember that you are the one who will live with this through the rest of the semester. Mary's maxims are written and shared to alleviate stress and anxiety throughout the research process. Maxim number 3 states, when picking a topic, like it or leave it or tweak it. If you can pick a topic you like and can stick with it throughout the semester, that will make it easier to complete the final project, because each source you find will build up to create the final project. You may certainly change your research question at any point, but it will save you time if it stays on the same or similar topic, so you do not have to find new sources of information. Ideally, you should be tweaking your research question as you encounter new sources of information. If you are not finding enough information, perhaps you should consider broadening your research question. There are lots of ways to tweak a research question. Your instructors have worked already with you and many other students, so they may understand your strengths and challenges. They may suggest something that works very well for you. Also, they tend to suggest things that interest them, so if you do a good job, it will end up engaging and pleasing them. If you are not interested in their suggestions, that could be awkward for you, but you should always choose something that interests you, or you may run the risk of avoiding the project and turning in a poor product. Instructors conduct their own research, and as experts in their areas of interest, they might be intimidating to work with, but Mary George writes that you can ignore their fame or seek and relish their wisdom. Mary George acknowledges that doing library research feels like being a detective a la Sherlock Holmes. You do not know what you do not know, and that can be daunting. The challenge you have is to find clues. Reading is one of the best methods for discovering and learning new things. Fortunately, your research does not start with a dead body. Your starting point will be something else that rivets your attention and merits investigation. If your mind comes up with a big blank when you start wondering what topic you should research, and you don't want to talk with an instructor, then you might start reading different things. Mary George suggests you read 2 different summaries of the same thing and compare their differences. This could give ideas on what you can do. Don't hesitate to search Google or Wikipedia for ideas, but also consider expanding your horizons by looking at some of the encyclopedias the library has online and in its print collection. Mary George affirms that you will not be wasting time by using multiple tools, but will be expanding your understanding of your overall topic, and, in the process, verifying facts as every good detective needs to do. Do something to find a friendly topic, one that you would like to hang out with for a while. As you read the newspaper, textbooks for other classes, or magazines, keep some notes. Of course, you can always take notes while watching TV or listening to the radio too. Write down some ideas. If you do not jot them down now, then you may regret it later. It may save you time in the long run to write down lots of details about a source, such as a newspaper article. Mary George gives specific things to write down on page 34 and also explains why you should get in this habit on page 36. It's a good idea to record both what you find and exactly where you find it from the start. Consider using your current textbooks as a way to browse for ideas. Just as the slide says, you can look at the lists of further readings at the end of chapters within a textbook or following the encyclopedia article. Who knows, you might be in luck when you find a book title that is both interesting and academically sound. If you come to the library or even browse in your public library, you may discover a world of good books. Implement the suggestions given by Mary George. Remember that you can always ask a librarian or library worker for help to find a book in the catalog or on the shelves. A research library organizes its books by class, meaning that books on similar topics are generally placed together on the same set of shelves. This allows you to browse. Therefore, books on the Civil War, skin disease, or anatomy and physiology can be found close to each other. Primary sources can also be excellent as a means for discovering an interesting topic. If you hear a statistic, try to learn more about it and how it was gathered. This method suggests you analyze something more in depth. A research study on a new drug that treats patients with diabetes could give you some fascinating ideas. The list on this slide offers even more primary sources. If you are going into nursing, you should remember that the nursing department focuses a lot on diseases. So exploring different diseases that interest you or affect a friend or family member may prove to be advantageous. Perhaps you could look for blogs of patients talking about how they live or cope with their disease. This could yield some captivating ideas that could lead you to a great research question. What do you know already? This slide shows a picture of the state of Idaho. One thing that I know is that canals were built in eastern Idaho in the late 1800s. And they did that so that they could plant more crops and get water to the crops in the fields. And so for agricultural reasons, they did this. One thing that I don't really know is how they did it. Did they do it by hand or did they use machines to dig the canals? So what kind of technology did they use? Did they import machinery or dig with shovels? And if they did import the machinery, how long did it take? What was the transportation like? Did they ever use the canals for transportation once those canals were built? So this is the idea of linking what you know with what you don't know and connecting something you do know with something else that you know and asking a question about that. The example provided in the book is actually really good. So you should read that, and I just thought it would be fun to provide a different, more local kind of a question for this one. Incidentally, it seems that in the past, it took a full day to travel 20 miles back in the day, and so that might explain why cities like Pocatello and Blackfoot are 20 miles apart in eastern Idaho. So that's something to consider, I suppose. So what do you do after you choose a topic? I think it's a good idea to get some feedback from your professor. Ask them questions like, will this work? What challenges do you think I will encounter? How could I improve this? What suggestions do you have for me? Another suggestion that Mary George provides is to wait a little before you go seeking for sources. It's a good idea to think about what kinds of sources you might need. Take notes of ideas that come to you as you take a little break. Engage your imagination. Do some mental dreaming about your topic and ask yourself some questions that start with the words, what if? If I were to change, what will I like most about my topic? In order to succeed with this project, in order to enjoy this process, this topic may lead me to discover, and other open-ended or positive phrases. I think imagination is important throughout the entire process, but at this point, you need to actually set aside some time to include imagination. Mary George has had a lot of experience watching students involved in the research process. She speaks from experience. In my own research life, I have discovered that 30 minutes or an hour a day on research is much less stressful and often more productive than one large chunk of time in one day or an all-nighter. You would be surprised what you can accomplish if you dedicate 15 to 30 minutes each day to your research project. Give it a try. As Mary George writes, a longer process is in fact easier to manage and a lot less painful than a compressed one. Spreading the project out gives your mind more opportunities to dream about it while you are asleep and or going from place to place. Mary George does not want you to drown in the sea of sources before you even get started, and neither do I. Start thinking about your topic if you have not done so already. Consider the ideas presented in this video and look for the next video on brainstorming for additional help as you select a research topic.